Thank you very much for being here.
Thanks so much, Mr. President.
Trump's latest meeting with Ukraine's president might have just changed everything. Hours before sitting down with Zelensky at the White House, Trump made his position crystal clear on social media. No NATO membership for Ukraine. No getting Crimea back. Take it or leave it. This isn't just tough negotiating. It's Trump essentially handing Putin exactly what he's been demanding for 3 years of war. Let's break down what actually happened yesterday because the implications are massive. Before we dive into the details, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more in-depth geopolitical analysis. Trump hosted what might be the most important diplomatic gathering since the Cold War ended. 7 European leaders rushed to Washington with just days' notice. That doesn't happen unless something big is brewing. French President Macron, German Chancellor Merz, British Prime Minister Starmer, they all dropped everything to stand with Zelensky. But here's the thing, Trump had already made up his mind before they even walked through the door. On his Truth Social platform, Trump wrote that Zelensky could end the war almost immediately if he wanted to. Then came the kicker. Remember how the war started? Trump said, no getting back Crimea, no NATO membership for Ukraine. Some things never change. That's not just Trump's opinion. Those are Putin's exact demands, word for word. Think about what Trump's really saying here. He's telling a country fighting for its survival to give up its most important defensive territory. He's telling them to abandon their biggest security goal. And he's doing it while Putin's bombs are literally falling on Ukrainian cities.
Just hours before the talks in Washington, Russia launching more deadly attacks on Ukraine. Russian forces unleashing deadly drone assaults on civilians in Ukraine. At least 6 people killed, including a young child.
Zelensky called it Putin's way of humiliating diplomatic efforts. Trump didn't mention it. This all started with Trump's meeting with Putin in Alaska 3 days earlier. That summit was supposed to produce a ceasefire. Trump had been demanding one for weeks. He even threatened new sanctions if Putin didn't agree. But something changed in that room. Trump came out talking about comprehensive peace deals instead of ceasefires. He dropped his sanctions threat. He started echoing Putin's talking points about the root causes of the war. Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff tried to spin this as progress. He claimed Putin agreed to robust security guarantees for Ukraine, something like NATO's Article 5 protection, where an attack on one is an attack on all. But here's the problem. The Kremlin hasn't confirmed any of this, and Putin has spent years saying he'll never accept Ukraine in NATO or any NATO-like arrangement. So either Putin completely reversed his position in private, or someone's not telling the truth about what happened in Alaska. The European leaders knew they had a problem. They had been cut out of the Alaska meeting entirely. Now they were racing to Washington to make sure Trump didn't just hand Ukraine over to Putin without their input. These were not just any European leaders. This was the core of the Western Alliance, the people who've been supporting Ukraine with billions in aid and weapons. They called themselves the Coalition of the Willing and held their own video meeting before flying to Washington. Their message was simple. Europe has a say in this. Ukraine's future affects European security. Any deal has to work for everyone, not just Trump and Putin.
U.S. President Donald Trump said on Saturday Ukraine should make a deal to end the war with Russia because, quote, Russia is a very big power and they are not.
That's not the language of an impartial mediator. That's the language of someone who's already picked a side. The White House meeting itself was unprecedented. 7 world leaders don't usually show up at once unless there's a crisis. The logistics alone were complicated. European leaders arrived first, then waited. Only Zelensky got the full ceremonial treatment at the West Wing entrance. Even Zelensky's clothes became an issue again. Remember, his last White House meeting was a disaster part because Trump didn't like his military style outfit.
That would not have been a good situation. What was your second
And
question?
my second question for President Zelensky. Do you ever, why don't you wear a suit? Why don't you wear a suit? You're the highest level in this country's office and you refuse to wear a suit. Just want to see if you, do you own a suit?
You have problems.
A lot of Americans have problems with you not
Really?
respecting
I don't
the
have
dignity of
such.
this office.
I will wear a costume after this war will finish.
Okay.
Yes, maybe one.
Maybe something like this.
something like
Yes,
yours.
sir.
Yes.
That'd be great.
Maybe something better. I don't know. We will see. Maybe something cheaper than yeah. Thank you.
It sounds trivial, but it shows how sensitive these relationships have become. Trump cares about appearances, and Zelensky's team knows one wrong move could blow up the whole thing. The stakes couldn't be higher for Ukraine. Trump's basically offering a choice. accept Putin's terms and get some kind of American security guarantee, or keep fighting and risk losing American support entirely. But here's the fundamental problem. Ukraine's constitution doesn't allow giving up territory. Zelensky legally can't agree to Trump's demands even if he wanted to. And Putin's demands go way beyond just land. He wants Ukraine's military reduced. He wants NATO forces pulled back from Eastern Europe. He wants to address what he calls the root causes of the conflict. Those root causes include things like Ukraine having the wrong government and wrong identity. Putin doesn't just want Ukrainian land. He wants to eliminate Ukraine as an independent country. The Europeans know this. That's why they are so worried about Trump's approach. A deal that gives Putin everything he wants doesn't end the war. It just gives him to regroup and attack again later. There's also the question of credibility. Trump's talking about providing Article 5 style security guarantees to Ukraine, but many experts doubt he would actually honor NATO's existing Article 5 commitments. If push came to shove, why would a promise to Ukraine be any different? Meanwhile, Ukraine keeps fighting and dying. Russian forces control almost 20% of the country now. They're still advancing in some areas. Every day Trump spends negotiating is another day Putin's forces can grab more territory. The timing of all this matters too. Trump wants a peace deal fast. He's probably thinking about his legacy, maybe even a Nobel Peace Prize. But sustainable peace takes time. Rushing into a bad deal could make things worse, not better. Secretary of State Marco Rubio seemed to understand this. He warned there could be consequences, including new sanctions, if no deal gets reached. But that contradicts Trump's softer approach toward Putin. The European leaders left Washington without any clear solution. They got to make their case, but Trump's still calling the shots. And his shots seem aimed at pressuring Ukraine, not Russia. Putin, meanwhile, is sitting pretty. He's got Trump pushing his agenda. He's got time to keep fighting, and he's managed to split the Western alliance response. The real test comes next. Will Trump follow through on his pressure campaign against Ukraine? Will European leaders break with America if they have to? And most importantly, will Zelensky bend or risk losing everything? What we are watching isn't just about Ukraine anymore. It's about whether the post-war international order survives, whether aggression pays off, whether America still leads the free world or just cuts deal with whoever's strongest. Trump thinks he's being a deal maker, but some deals are not worth making and some prices are too high to pay. The question is whether anyone in Washington still remembers that. What are your thoughts on the matter? Please let me know in the comment section and subscribe to the channel if you like the video. Most powerful man in the world just sat down with Vladimir Putin for 3 hours in Alaska and they walked away with absolutely nothing to show for it. If you want to stay ahead of the biggest geopolitical stories shaping our world, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications. Donald Trump promised he would end the war in Ukraine within 24 hours.
Before I even arrive at the Oval Office, I will have the disastrous war between Russia and Ukraine settled. It will be settled quickly.
That was over 6 months ago. Yesterday's summit in Anchorage was supposed to be his big moment, his chance to prove he really is the ultimate deal maker. Instead, we got awkward silence and empty promises. Let me break down what actually happened, and more importantly, what it means for the war that's been raging for over 3 years. Trump rolled out the red carpet for Putin. Literally, fighter jets flew overhead. The two leaders shook hands like old friends. Putin even got a ride in the presidential limo they call the Beast. For a guy who's been treated like a global outcast since invading Ukraine, this was pure gold. But the warm welcome didn't translate into results. After nearly 3 hours of talks, both leaders faced the cameras. They read short statements, took 0 questions, and basically admitted they got nowhere.
So there's no deal until there's a deal. I will call up NATO.
Putin wasn't much better. He talked about eliminating the root causes of the conflict. That's diplomatic speak for Ukraine's needs to surrender. So what went wrong? First, let's talk about what Russia actually wants. Putin's demands haven't changed much since this war began. He wants Ukraine to give up on joining NATO forever. He wants them to disarm. And he wants to keep all the Ukrainian territory his forces have captured. That's about 19% of the entire country. We're talking about Crimea, which Russia grabbed back in 2014. Most of the eastern Donbas region, parts of 4 other provinces. Putin also wants the West to lift sanctions, the same sanctions that have hammered Russia's economy for the past 3 years. Trump came into this meeting talking tough. He had threatened severe consequences if Putin didn't agree to a ceasefire.
It was always going to be I was going to meet with President Putin, and then after that, I'm going to call the leaders and President Zelensky. I'm going to call President Zelensky, and then I'll call probably in that order the leaders.
He had already slapped massive tariffs on India for buying Russian oil, 50% tariffs. That's essentially a trade embargo. Trump linked in a Fox News interview right after the summit. He said he might wait 2 or 3 weeks before imposing new sanctions. Maybe that's not exactly the decisive action he promised. Here's what's really fascinating about this whole situation. The meeting happened in Alaska, and the location choice tells everything about how Putin thinks. Alaska used to be Russian territory. Russia sold it to America back in 1867 for $7.2 million. Putin's team specifically requested Alaska as the venue. They said it was logical since the two countries are neighbors there, but there's deeper symbolism at play. This is Putin showing the world that Russia still matters, that he can sit as an equal with the American president on what used to be Russian soil. The optics were a massive win for Moscow. For 3 years, Western leaders have refused to meet with Putin. They've called him a war criminal. The International Criminal Court had issued an arrest warrant against him. Yesterday, he got the full presidential treatment on American soil. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Zelensky wasn't even invited to Alaska. He had to watch from the sidelines while 2 other men discussed his country's future. That's got to sting. Trump's team held a video call with European leaders earlier in the week. Germany's chancellor was there. So were the leaders of Britain, France, Italy, Poland, and Finland. They all basically begged Trump not to make any deals without including Ukraine. Looks like they got their wish, but probably not for the reasons they wanted. The truth is, this summit exposed some uncomfortable realities about Trump's approach to foreign policy. He's been talking about ending this war since before he took office. He suggested land swap, where Ukraine gives up territory in exchange for peace. He's even used the word divvy when talking about how Ukraine and Russia might split things up. But yesterday showed that Putin isn't interested in Trump's deal-making skill. At least not yet. Russia thinks it's winning this war. Putin's forces have been making slow but steady gains in eastern Ukraine. They've got more troops, more weapons, and they are betting they can outlast Ukrainian resistance. Why would Putin agree to a ceasefire now when he thinks time is on his side? The economic pressure isn't working either. Yes, sanctions have hurt Russia's economy, but not enough to force Putin's hand. Russia's still selling oil to China and India. They're still funding their war machine, and here's the kicker. During yesterday's talks, Putin didn't just discuss Ukraine, he pushed for new business deals with America, space cooperation, technology partnerships, Arctic development projects. This guy's playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. So where does this leave Ukraine? In a really tough spot. Trump's already putting pressure on Zelensky to make a deal. His exact words to the Ukrainian presidents are that he gotta make a deal. Trump also pointed out that Russia is a big power and they are not. That's not exactly a ringing endorsement of Ukraine's position. This war's still raging while diplomats talk. Just during yesterday's summit, Russia launched 85 drone attacks on Ukrainian cities. Ukraine shot down 61 of them. Ukrainian forces hit back with their own drone strikes on Russian territory. People are still dying while politicians pose for photos. So what has this summit really accomplished? Putin got international legitimacy, Trump got embarrassed, and Ukraine got a harsh reminder that their fate might be decided by other people. The next step is supposed to be a three-way meeting: Trump, Putin, and Zelensky, all in the same room. Putin even joked that next time they should meet in Moscow. Can you imagine an American president visiting Moscow while Russia is still occupying Ukrainian territory? Trump said he might get a little hate for that idea. That's probably the understatement of the year. But here's the bigger picture. This summit showed that ending the Ukraine war isn't going to be as simple as Trump promised on the campaign trail. Putin's not desperate for a deal. He's got time and momentum on his side. Trump's threats haven't changed Putin's calculations, and Ukraine's got limited options as long as they are dependent on American support. So what do you so what do you think so what do you think happens next? Will Trump follow through on his sanctions threats? Can Ukraine survive without stronger American backing? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if this analysis was helpful, make sure to subscribe for more deep dives into the stories that matter.
What's your message to Vladimir Putin? Mr. Putin, did you underestimate Ukraine?
We are about to witness a repeat of one of the most dangerous diplomatic moments in recent history. Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin are meeting alone this Friday in Alaska. No advisors, no Ukraine. Just two men in a room deciding the fate of a war that's already killed hundreds of thousands. Sound familiar? It should, because we have seen this movie before.
President Trump is arriving right now at the presidential palace in Helsinki, Finland, for his first summit with President Putin.
July 2018, Helsinki, Finland. Trump walks out of a private meeting with Putin and does something no American president has ever done. He sides with Russia over his own intelligence agencies. On live television in front of the world, the question wasn't subtle. A reporter asked Trump about Russian election interference. Trump responds, Putin told him Russia didn't do it, and Trump believed him. Fiona Hill was Trump's top Russia advisor at the time. She was watching from the side of the stage. She later said she considered pulling a fire alarm just to end the press conference. Think about that. A senior White House official wanted to fake an emergency to stop her own president from talking. Now we are doing it again. Same format, same players, higher stakes. This Friday's meeting happens at Elmendorf Air Base in Alaska. The location isn't random. Alaska used to belong to Russia. They sold it to America in 1867 for $7 million. Putin knows this. Trump knows this. It's symbolism Putin loves. The White House is calling this a listening exercise. That's diplomatic speak for we have no idea what's going to happen. Trump himself said it's a feel out meeting. He'll know in the first few minutes if Putin wants a ceasefire. But here's what makes this terrifying. Ukraine won't be there. The country actually fighting this war gets no seat at the table. Trump has already started talking about land swapping. He says there will be some territory exchanges between Russia and Ukraine for Ukraine's own good. The problem is Ukraine controls almost none of Russian territory. So what exactly would they be swapping? Vladimir Zelensky made his position crystal clear. Ukraine will not give land to the occupier. Period. European leaders agree. You can't negotiate away someone else's country without them in the room. Putin sees this differently. He wants 4 entire Ukrainian regions, Donetsk, Kherson, Luhansk, and Zaporizhia. Russia already claims to own these areas. They just don't fully control them yet. Putin's demand would force Ukraine to abandon what military experts call their fortress belt. These are major cities with defense systems Ukraine has spent 11 years building. The timing isn't coincidental either. Russian forces are advancing in eastern Ukraine right now. They are gaining ground around the coal mining town of Dobropilya. Putin wants battlefield leverage before he sits down with Trump. The stronger his position on the ground, the more he can demand at the negotiating table. But let's talk about why Trump and Putin meeting alone is problematic. It's not just Helsinki, it's a pattern. In 2017, they met at the G20 summit in Hamburg, just the two of them and translators. Senior Trump officials later admitted they had no idea what was discussed. After one meeting, Trump reportedly asked his translator for his notes. That's not normal presidential behavior. Fiona Hill, who watched these dynamics up close, said it simply. Trump just wings it. He doesn't prepare like other presidents. Putin, on the other hand, loves this kind of sparring match. He prides himself on thinking quickly in these situations. It's a mismatch. One leader does his homework, the other improvises. In Helsinki, when they tried to make a deal, Trump came out claiming he and Putin agreed that US law enforcement could question the Russian intelligence officials who interfered in American elections. Sounds reasonable, right? Wrong. Putin's version was different. He said Russia would get access to Americans who pushed for something called the Magnitsky Act. These are sanctions that target Russian officials for human rights abuses. Putin wanted to interrogate American citizens as payback. Trump apparently didn't understand what Putin had actually proposed. The deal went nowhere. But imagine if it hadn't. Imagine if Trump had accidentally agreed to hand over American citizens to Russian interrogation. That's the danger of winging it with Vladimir Putin. The current situation makes this even riskier. Putin is under an international arrest warrant for war crimes in Ukraine. Most of world leaders won't meet with him at all. Trump giving him this platform is already a victory for Moscow. European leaders are worried, really worried. They had a virtual meeting with Trump on Wednesday. According to diplomats who were there, Trump made some reassuring statements. He said Ukrainian territory isn't his to negotiate. He talked about supporting security guarantees for Ukraine. But Trump often tells different groups what they want to hear. European leaders got reassurance, but what will Putin hear in that room on Friday? The White House keeps lowering expectations. They are calling it a listening session.